Off-season eating, welcome back to the Jewett kitchen. Today we're gonna make cinnamon bun waffles. I post this on my Instagram and I constantly get, John, what's the recipe to these waffles? What do you do? So that's what we're gonna dive in today and learn on how to make some delicious waffles off-season, or even if you're in prep. What you're gonna need to start for this is, for one, food scale, if you're counting macros, or you just don't care and you just wanna make waffles and not count anything. You will need a mixing bowl, you will need a whisk, you will need a waffle maker as well. I'll show you that here in a second. Other items will be just some oatmeal, and I grind my oats into a powder. So this is actually oat, if you wanna call it oat flour, oat powder, just using like a Ninja blender. Perfectly easy to do it that way. Also we'll need some, I'm using Animal Way cinnamon bun flavor. We also have some baking powder, and baking powder, it's cornstarch, it's not a big deal. 1 teaspoon is a gram of carbohydrate. You're welcome to count that into your macros if you see fit. In the off season, I just actually eyeball the amount that's needed, but it's probably about a teaspoon, which I'm using. That'll be our agent to cause the rise that we want for our waffles. And then also we have some pumpkin, which is gonna be, give it some moisture, cause some volume to take place. And the thing that I forgot was I do have egg whites that are present, which I use 20 grams of eggs in it, which egg is a binder. So when you get that rise in your waffles, it helps like solidify the waffle and give it that puffier consistency. So let's start measuring some things out. So mixing this together, we're gonna start with our dry ingredients. And for off season, right now, I am doing 90 grams of oat flour. And I wouldn't change any of the rest of the ingredients for the amount of oats that you wanna do in your recipe. So whether you're gonna do 50 grams or 60 grams of oats, the same amount of like pumpkin, baking powder, and egg white could stay the same. So put that in, and like I said, with my baking powder, I just eyeball this, and if I had to actually measure it, I do think it would probably be maybe about a teaspoon of baking powder. And then what I forgot to mention earlier was I do put a little bit of extra sweetener in it, some stevia packets. So I use 2 stevia packets. Don't need to count these in your macros. It's basically, it does have some erythritol in it, which is minimally digested. It's like 10% of it is actually digested, so like 0.2 grams of carbohydrate. And then we're also gonna do our cinnamon bun whey, which is gonna be the main flavor profiling for our waffle. And I put in 20 grams. So for this meal, I eat mainly eggs, but I'll have a little bit of protein allocated to have some flavor into my waffles. So you could adjust this. Now this is the one, if you do adjust it down, your waffle might start to get blander and blander. You might need some other maybe flavor extracts added in, or a little bit extra sweetener added in. So with our dry ingredients here, we wanna take our whisk and we wanna mix these thoroughly. If you try to do this and add your wet ingredients at the same time without mixing it, you're gonna get patches of clumps of oats and whey, and also your baking powder is not gonna mix in thoroughly to where you're gonna have that nice rise to your batter and puffy yet crispy waffles that we're looking to achieve. Time to add in our wet ingredients. So we're gonna look at our pumpkin, and I do 30 grams of pumpkin. If you're starving, you could always add a little bit more, and I've seen that hasn't been a huge impact. And whether I'm doing 30 grams or even 60 grams of pumpkin, pumpkin's awesome because 120 grams of pumpkin is only 10 grams of carbohydrate. So 60 grams is 5 grams, 30 grams added in is like 2.5 grams of carbohydrate. So it's a minimal addition of carbohydrates. So it's great if you're starving on prep and you need some volume, pumpkin works really well. Then for the eggs, 20 grams. Every 10 grams of this is a gram of protein. So if you want to subtract some of that out from your rest of your macros, you could be welcome to do so. Then from there, all that's left to do is add in our water. Now, before you do that, you could even add in some like almond extract or caramel extract, or even cinnamon if you wanted that in. And that's one thing I didn't add. So we're going to add some water and mix in until we get that kind of batter consistency where we have, you know, it has, if you were picking up with our whisk, that it kind of just drips off. One thing about this is that we will let it sit for 5 minutes before we actually put it in to our waffle maker, which it will keep thickening up. So you see it just kind of like drips off. That's about the consistency that you want. But I'm gonna put just a little bit more water, thin it out. So like I said, it will get thicker as it sits. And there you go, that looks pretty good. We see like the air bubbles are forming. That's what you wanna be seeing in your waffle batter. So we'll let that sit for 5 minutes. So waffle maker I have is All Clad. Many people ask me what brand I have. Use code. Okay, just kidding, I don't have a code. But just turn it on. And we will need a little bit of cooking spray. I'm sure someone out there is gonna hate that I use Pam, but I'll use Pam. We have a mix of different oils that are perfectly acceptable for what I want out of my waffle. All right, one thing to add now that our batter has been sitting, and you can see this stuff is a lot thicker, which that's a perfect consistency. I have blueberries next, frozen blueberries. The blueberries, they will start thawing and can really thin out your batter. So I add them in right before I put them into my waffle maker. So technically, I guess these are blueberry cinnamon bun waffles. We can just mix in those blueberries. They'll be ready to put our batter in. So I'm gonna spray our waffle maker. All right, pour our batter in. Pretty thick stuff, just kind of tap it, let it spread out a little bit. Perfect. And I have this set to a 4, which would be 4 minutes. It'll beep, and then our waffles will be ready. Our waffles have beeped. They're ready to come out. Sometimes you have to pry them off that top a bit. Ooh, they are gorgeous. Look at these guys. Crisp, golden brown, perfect. Extra bonus, can eat the batter porridge off the back. Our cinnamon bun waffles are ready for eating. They look beautiful. The last thing is, are you team syrup or are you not? And this is Mrs. Butterworth sugar-free. Now, Mrs. Butterworth sugar-free, it is sorbitol, which normal carbohydrate is 4 calories per gram. Sorbitol is actually 2.6 because you don't fully absorb it. However, you probably still need to count the calories because they will add up. So up to you if you do so, or just enjoy your syrup, or don't use sugar-free, use the good stuff, or don't use any at all. So we're gonna get to eating these and enjoy. Let me know below, are you team waffles or pancakes? You pick, but this batter would work for pancakes as well. So enjoy, guys.